When we polled you, the Lockhorns viewers, on what metal style you wanted us to tackle next, your response was overwhelming: atmospheric black metal. And so by request, we're adding this style to our heavy metal family tree. Some say all black metal is atmospheric. So what is so unique about this popular subgenre? Who created it? What's it about? And how does it connect to the many other charred branches of black metal? Today on Lockhorns, it's a live debate on the essential bands of atmospheric black metal. Welcome to Lockhorns, BangerTV's metal debate show, straight to you from the Banger Hangar. A reminder, of course, if you're watching this in the archive, we do this live. And a reminder, please subscribe. Why? Well, for one, you get to be notified of everything we do here at BangerTV, but most importantly, help us build the biggest online YouTube metal community. This week, we continue our tradition of listening to you guys, viewers of BangerTV, of what you want to see us doing here. And what you're telling us is we need to do a show about atmospheric black metal. And to join me in that task is not just one, but actually two versions of Blayne Smith. Blayne Smith, how are you?
Great as always. How about you?
I'm okay. Good to see you. I feel like it's been a while.
It has. It's been. This has been since before I was on the team.
What?
Yeah. This is what brought me to the team.
To the masses. To the
Yes.
masses. What have you been up to? What's going on?
You know, hanging out with you guys, hanging out on Twitch with some of you guys.
Hanging out with this guy.
Hanging out with this guy. And just coming up with dumb gags for every time I do a review.
Tell me what you like about atmospheric black metal. What do you love? We'll get into what it is,
Yes.
but what do you like about it?
Atmospheric black metal is like the one genre of metal you can listen to and fall asleep to without compromising on it being metal. Like, it's still very clearly black metal, but you can get nice and tired. You know, maybe you had some Percocet left over from when you got your wisdom teeth out, and you know, you just sit on the couch and kind of just melt while listening to it.
But somehow atmospheric sleep metal just didn't have the same sort of ring to it, I suppose. Anyways, I digress. I'm here to learn. Not really in my wheelhouse, black metal guy, but not so much into the Atmos, but I got an open mind. So here's what we're gonna do in the shop this week. We want you guys to tell us in the chat who you think are the top 10 most influential, most innovative, most important atmospheric black metal bands. And you know the drill. We need to know why. It's not just a foobar shout out to your favorite band. We want to hear why your band needs to be part of the story. And we need to see who's joining us this week. Let's look at the board. We got people watching from the UK, Portugal, Germany, India, Colombia, Latvia, Wales, Belgium, Austria, Brazil, Argentina, Panama, Australia. Very early. Welcome. Hope you got a good sleep listening to atmospheric black metal. And lots of Americans in the house. Welcome. Texas, California, Connecticut, Atlanta, Kentucky, Michigan, Colorado, and Oregon. And here in Canada, we've got folks from Toronto, Montreal, and Halifax. Welcome all. Of course, to help us get through this episode is the one, the only, blackened Lisa Lassour. Hello.
It's true. I do like to blacken all the things. That's kind of been my life. Yes.
And what's the theme behind you this week?
You know, we tried to do trees and we didn't have enough, so we kind of then tried to do gray, and that's as close as we got.
Grayscale.
It's gray.
I thought it was nature, a lot of nature,
Nature's
but then
good.
realized that enslaved cover has no nature, so I gave up on that.
Abstract.
You need to tell us something about polling. Is there a polling system?
Yeah, so new to Sam Dunn, who wasn't here last time, we're now using the YouTube poll feature through the show when there's an argument, because sometimes it's hard for me in the live chat to really get a sense of what you want. So I'll be putting the URL in the chat if we decide to do a poll, and then we'll have you go over there, register your vote, so that we can very quickly see if you want band A or B on or off the chart. So watch out for polls. That's new.
Excellent. Okay, we got the drill. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to kick things off. I got my pen. Blayne.
Yes.
Give us a definition of atmospheric black metal. What is it, in your opinion?
In my opinion, there's a really great quote that, do we have it in here? Do we have the full quote? Because I'm a moron and I can't remember things.
It's in there, but it's very small print.
Pull out your glasses.
Oh, geez. Okay, so basically, I'll just summarize it. There's Brian Eno described ambient music in a really great way that I think is really applicable here, which is that ambient music, or atmospheric black metal, needs to be able to tailor to any type of listening. It should be as ignorable as it is engaging. And I think that's something that atmospheric black metal does that really no other genre of metal does. You can put it on in the background and be droned to sleep, or you can sit down with a record and a nice glass of scotch and really feel like you're in the Highlands of Scotland.
One might want to do that,
Yes.
in fact. So, what about the sound? What about the sound of atmospheric black metal?
The sound isn't going to actually at first be that different from black metal. It's almost like pure black metal. So we're going to get rid of a lot of the kind of theatrics, any of the kind of Satanism, you know, that kind of thing, and we're going to focus a lot on just the atmosphere. We're going to get some folk elements in there. We're going to get some kind of more nature, philosophy, kind of going on. The guitars and the drums are still going to be very similar to black metal, but they might have a more, you know, a little more droning quality. They might kind of sustain something longer, but everything, including the vocals, is going to be way more buried in the mix, giving a white haze over everything.
Right.
And then you might sprinkle on top a keyboard or a flute or a lute or whoever else shows up to the party with a weird instrument from the 1600s.
It might happen too. What about the drums? What are we hearing in the drum department?
The drums are a great thing because black metal drums, once you bury them in the mix and kind of take the punch out of a blast beat, it's really just a rhythmic, droning, just kind of lull you into the song. You know, we're used to kind of being kicked in the face with it, but when you take the bass out of double bass and still have double bass going, it's this kind of pitter patter in the background that's almost like, you know, like a rainstorm more than a blast beat.
Yep. So it's like a droning quality in the guitars and the drums. So to state the obvious, there's no groove.
There's not a lot of groove. No, it's
All right, well, there they are. It's ambient. We got this pure notion. There is no Satan. It's about nature and related topics, and in terms of the sonic quality, it has a droning type sound, which is both in the guitars and the drums. And lastly, vocals. What are we talking vocally?
Again, still black metal vocals, still this shrill scream. There might be some singing here and there, some kind of folky chanting, but again, it's going to be buried enough in the mix that it's going to have this washing over effect where instead of someone yelling at you, someone's yelling at you in the forest from a mile away, and you're kind of like straining to hear it.
A yell whisper.
Yeah.
I'm yelling at you. And a lot of one-man bands.
A lot of one-man bands. You know, it's a lot of guys that have a cabin in the woods and don't do well with other people, and they just decide to learn how to play everything and put something out or program a drum machine because drums are hard.
AKA asocial.
Yes.
Metal, I suppose. But we get this black gaze and post-metal, ambient black metal. Like, I'm confused. Like, is this different than all those other styles?
I would say very much yes. Okay. The difference that I will maintain between this, especially the post-metal and black gaze that people bring in a lot, is at its core, it's black metal with changes put on top. It's the bones are black metal, the accoutrement is something different. Whereas with something like black gaze, it's outsider art, so to speak. It's frequently a non-metal group, non-metal guys, bringing in elements of metal that they like. Or in the case of post-metal, just totally deconstructing.
Right, and we'll get into this because I think there might also be some debate in the chat and about how metal is atmospheric black metal, which also comes up in the other subgenres you've just described. But we need to move on and bring everyone else into the conversation here. In the past, we picked what we call the legend of the subgenre, the artist we could not do without, the artist who started it all. But now we poll you. And Lisa, we have a resounding victor in the legend contest.
We do. We did a poll, and by overwhelming vote, the legend was Burzum.
Burzum.
So we're actually going to play what I think is a hilarious music video that appeared on VH1 Classic, because in 1996, apparently some interesting people worked at VH1 Classic. While your comments about Burzum.
That is without question the most underground thing that's ever aired on VH1. To Lisa's point, an outsider got on the inside.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I don't know how that happened.
Someone lost their job for letting that get through.
So Blayne, give me your thoughts on why Burzum should be the legend of atmospheric black metal.
Well, I mean, ultimately I'm going to say Burzum once because I know that's how you're supposed to say it, and then I'm going to say Burzum for the rest of the episode to not sound like a jackass. The reason I think is this is one of the the pioneering bands, the pioneering guys in black metal, and he was kind of one of the first to really focus less on, like I said, the theatrical elements, the satanic elements, and be that one-man band, kind of trying to get into a different headspace than everybody else was trying to get into, and that headspace just wound up, being atmospheric. Right. And then also he went to jail and they wouldn't let him have a guitar because that's just 6 garrote wires. So he had to get creative.
And no shortage of controversy here. We all know the story behind Varg and what happened in Norway in the early 90s. And I guess maybe importantly, he was connected to that scene.
Yes.
So I guess it makes sense that he or Burzum would be the legend because, as you said, he was an outgrowth of that initial Norwegian black metal scene.
Yeah, and I think one of the kind of testaments to the general strength is that even the PC libtards like myself, as some of the commenters will say, even we tend to allow this one to slip through and just be like, oh sure, he's a pretty bad guy, but those are some records, that's really a testament when someone's able to make something good enough that you're like, all right, I'm just going to avert my eyes
Challenges
for a second.
your boundaries. Lisa, though, we've got some comments on the board. We want to hear what people have to say about Burzum.
With absolutely no surprise, we got comments on this.
Yeah, no kidding. Here we go. I can't read that. Looks like Greek. No joke. Burzum is essential, as it was one of the first to incorporate dark ambient with black metal. Kevin AD says that Burzum has got to be the legend. His lisetar us and Philosophum set the standard with shimmering riffs which fill the ambient void with crackling, trebly energy, metronomic, unintrusive, and hypnotic drumming. Nice. And the somehow jarring yet subdued vocals, black metal that casts a spell on you and sends you off to the land of dreams. Nicely put.
Yeah,
I think we should have an adjective competition on Lockhorns at some point. Let's park that idea. The extreme metal entity claims, while I prefer Ulver and Agalloch overall, Burzum's contribution to black metal, particularly with his perfection of atmosphere, cannot be ignored. Burzum is the forefather of atmospheric black metal. No questions asked, and easily the legend. Thank you. Mike Johnson. Varg's music was ahead of its time in the realm of black metal. His sound, not his personal opinions, have influenced some of the most popular atmospheric black metal bands today, i.e., again, Agalloch and Wolves in the Throne Room. Vessel Brocuse is back. Varg would burn down the Banger Bar knowing he's on the same chart as Agalloch, though. Not going to dispute that. Let's move on. Andreas Kirscher. No tolerance for Nazis, thank you, even if they make good music. All right.
Fair enough.
Progmaster 666. I don't understand why Burzum is so popular for the genre. To me, Burzum is straightforward black metal, except not as good as the other black metal bands. Emperor is way more atmospheric than Burzum. Atmospheric or not, big Emperor fan, love those guys. Cody Kennedy, Burzum falls more into dark ambient, which isn't really a metal subgenre. However, the majority of atmospheric artists have taken influence from Burzum. I say Burzum would be proto-atmospheric. Black, any thoughts on all that?
I mean, that's, there's some valid points there. Certainly, as we said, when Burzum wasn't allowed to have a keyboard, or when it was only allowed to have a keyboard, he got more into the dark ambient stuff, which you actually do. There's ambient black metal, there's dark ambient in a lot of metal. You get that with Blue Dust Nord. I'm getting ahead of myself. Some bands we're going to talk about later, the ambient atmospheric argument's going to come up a little bit. But, again, it's that thing where even if it is you're saying it's the proto, it's the whatever, it's not quite, it's still going to be the one at the top, because at some point we can all agree that it had an influence. It was one of the first to have the influence, and it's the household name.
I don't want to create a sidebar here, but what if we just took that out of the equation? Is it accurate? Is it absolutely metal in your opinion?
I feel it's absolutely metal. I mean, especially if we're gonna have folk metal, and folk metal gets no debate. The debate here is, a little
Loot's allowed.
Yes.
I think it's a loot welcome zone. Anyway, Lisa, I digress.
It's time to move on, guys.
Okay, all right.
And for those of you, I know about my mic, I'm going to whisper until they figure it out.
Well, you can shout whisper like an atmospheric black metal vocalist, and that would be very de rigueur. Okay, we've done the legend.
Yes.
Next step, before we get to the 10 most important bands, Blayne Smith, your guest choice. Who, in your opinion, needs to be on the board?
Always try and be a little bit of a maverick, so I'm going with something, that might not have been as obvious to some people or off the bat for some people, but American, again, one-man guy, Panopticon. This, I think, is a really interesting band because with a lot of the European bands, you have the influence of folk. You have, this traditional folk music for Europe. What we say is folk music is European folk music. So, if you're a atmospheric black metal band living in America and you want to integrate folk, do you go to Ancestry.com and find out that you're 1/16 Norwegian and get a tattoo of Mjolnir to start doing it?
Yeah.
Or do you integrate American folk? So Panopticon keeps that atmospheric black metal tradition, but the folk he chose to integrate is bluegrass and American folk. As coming from Kentucky, he's playing the folk music the tree because
Got some comments about Panopticon. Say as they create some with black metal, Harbinger on here with some in my And we're back.
So don't touch that cable. That was bad for me to
Blame
touch
it
that.
on the internet. That's what I blame pretty much everything on. Okay, back to the show. We've got 2 of 10 important bands in atmospheric black metal on the board with Burzum and Panopticon, but it's time to move on. Lots to do. Lisa, who's up next?
Yeah, so sometimes we pull people and we have a pretty good sense of what they want to talk about, and then sometimes it's completely the opposite once we get in a live chat. And what I've noticed today is that people really want to talk about the summoning, so we're going to jump right to that. But first, we're going to show a small video clip of summoning so that you can get in the chat and give us your comments on this band.
Love the floating snowflakes. Reminds me of Stranger Things. But anyway, Blayne, summoning. Tell me about these guys.
Well, this is perfect to be beside Panopticon, because what I was just talking about with Panopticon, summoning is kind of the band I was thinking of. This is, Panopticon is the American summoning. Summoning, atmospheric black metal that really integrates that European folk. You get all kinds of weird instruments coming in, the kind of chanting, in addition to the black metal elements, which, you know, like I said, is a fairly strong hallmark of the genre. Most of these bands are going to have some kind of folk influence. They're going to layer something on top of the existing black metal. So, great to go beside them, because the reason I like this band is because they're doing an American version of that.
I love this too. Rest in peace, Prince. But this is like the Prince of black metal. It's like the artist formerly known as Summoning. I can't even. That takes the cake for indecipherable logoing in metal. Let's go to the board. Okay, we've got Venancio Cuna, who says Summoning. They're just so great and consistent. Really takes you directly into the misty mountains. Yes.
The logo is upside down.
Oh, case in point. Oh, it's so much more readable
Yeah.
now. Oh my God. Okay, there's now world peace has been achieved. The Summoning logo is right side up.
This has not been a very relaxing show so far, guys.
Apologies. I need more atmosphere in my diet, clearly. Where were we? Okay, back to the board. Pronounce this for me here. Blayne Smith. Although more aggressive, is a great band that I think fits the genre definition. Harbor of Taxes, Summoning is immensely influential with how they introduce melody based on minimalistic synths to the black metal genre. The perfect music for playing Dungeons and Dragons while stoned. For me, that's Ronnie James Dio, but I digress. Mystic Mind Analysis, Summoning needs to be the legend. They established the genre with a softer sound while still keeping the harshness of the guitars and vocals. Artur Felipe Castana, welcome back. Summoning is the best example. They use Lord of the Rings universe to create effect and bring the atmosphere aspects forward. Silenius and Protector make this project one of a kind with a horn of mead during a foggy day. Lizard Bridge, where's the guitars? No shrieking vocals? How is that even related to black metal?
There's other sections of this song. It was 40 seconds, man.
I've been dismantled by that comment. Anyway, a lot of love for Summoning, I would say, and even some claims that Summoning should be the legend. Lisa, are we ready for the next band? How's it looking out there?
Yeah, if you like that logo, you're gonna love this one. How to put that one upside down or not. It's Wolves in the Throne Room.
Is that right side up there, Blayne?
That's right side up, and
Thank
it's
you.
Wolves in the Throne Room. Screw you for making fun of me for putting that up.
Anyway, straight from the Pacific Northwest, my old stomping ground. These guys actually, I know this band's sound. They got a pretty amazing thing going on. Let's see what people say, and then Blayne, I want your thoughts. Mors Certa, yo, why isn't there any more chatter about goddamn Wolves in the Throne Room? That's the essential American atmospheric black metal band. AC Pilot says Whittier should be definitely there as they really push the ambient side into the genre, including extended synth passages. Ryan Wallach, they're one of the earlier US ABM bands. They've influenced much of the American atmospheric black metal wave. Marcus Warren, my wife fell asleep at the Wolves of the Throne Room show in Toronto. They're also playing here next week with Enslaved and Mercure. So your thoughts on these guys?
My thoughts. Yeah, this is, sometimes they get grouped in with the post-black or the hipster black metal, but this is one of those cases where they're not a hipster band, it's just everyone got mad at them because hipsters liked the band. But this is another great example of, it's fitting all the archetypes, right? From album cover of just a nice picture of nature to that really washed out sound going out over everything to being a little more willing to have these kind of long minimalist stretches in an album and kind of just, not have it be quite the sonic onslaught that we're used to.
Right.
One of the pioneers in the American scene and definitely a great band.
Yeah.
Although on the chat, there's definitely people who think they're purely a post-metal band.
That's crazy. I mean,
that's easy. They're just crazy.
I mean, saying they're a post-metal band really doesn't make sense to me because if you go pick up Two Hunters and tell me how that's not sounding like the rest of the stuff we're talking about.
Anyhow, I will weigh in. I'm going to go see them live with Enslaved next week. Really looking forward to the show. Never seen them live. Let's move on. Lisa, what are people saying?
A couple of big bands that we haven't talked about yet. Ulver, and Agalloch. So let's get some of those comments.
Okay.
Cool.
Ulver. We've got Adam Harding. I think Ulver should be the legend on this chart. Their debut album contains so many textures, movements, and an ethereal atmosphere which was entirely unique at the time. Good point. Without Ulver, we wouldn't have had Agalloch, Drudk, gotta help me, and even Mercure. Lizzie Williams concurs. I think Ulver is the biggest influence on the overall sound of atmospheric black metal. Burzum lacks that ethereal quality for me. Hanten Kurosu says, oh, Ulver should be here, mostly because they tackled with rawness, yet they heavily used melody, clean vocals, ambient atmospheres, for lack of a better name, and acoustic instruments. And Helvidia, 1349. I think Ulver is a lot more influential than Burzum, atmospheric black metal-wise. That was one word. Maybe the most metal word ever. While Burzum is more influential on the black metal genre. So give me your thoughts on Ulver. Blayne, another band, as people have been saying, like Burzum, connected to that original Norwegian scene.
Yeah, and this band is going to follow a bit of a trend that happens with a lot of these bands, where just an interest in exploring kind of the minimal. Ulver starts with, you know, the kind of traditional atmospheric black metal stuff that we're talking about here, and then, like some of the other bands we're going to talk about later, if you picked up a record from a couple of years ago, you'd be like, well, this is different because this. Then you kind of get that ambient, that experimenting with electronic music that is really, you know, a bit of what this genre is about. Just wanting to be like, okay, well, where can I take metal? How far can I take metal? Unlike the other genres, which is, what can I add metal to my music?
Aesthetically, a very different logo.
Yeah,
too.
you know, it's got it's a little less, it's got a little bit more of that folky vibe going on. You're still getting the nature-y element, though.
I can read it. It's not black metal enough, but that's another story. Lisa, moving on.
Not quite,
No?
because this is not a slam dunk, the spot for
Okay,
Ulver.
let's see. We got some detractors. Harbinger of Taxes. Ulver might have only released one properly atmospheric black metal album, but the one album is huge enough to warrant them a spot. Good point, you think, Blayne?
Well, yeah, like I said, the later stuff you're getting from Ulver is really just, hey, let's see, you know, let's play around with keyboards and synths and program things and see what we're getting into. So it was a progression of that sound. This is kind of a similar thing that came up in our Death Doom episode, where a lot of the pioneering bands in this genre just made this by accident as they were trying to make what they want to make now.
They moved on to what they were actually striving for. Okay, 1MQ, just their first albums. You see, Ulver nowadays is far beyond metal. I mean, it's a total avant-garde thing. And Old Boy Samurai says Ulver has not been metal for a long time. Still good, but not metal anymore. But it seems to me that influential enough and pioneering enough that they deserve a spot in the canon of ABM. Lisa, what is next?
Let's do this. Agalloch.
Agalloch. We knew these guys were going to come up.
Yep.
Blaine's, a few words before we go to the board.
Agalloch is a bit of a different one because Agalloch is one of those weird things where there's no denying for me that that Agalloch is atmospheric. The black metal in it is a lot less than a lot of the other bands. It's atmospheric, and there are touches of black metal, but they always do really strike me more as a doom band. But again, you know, if we're talking about the progression of a genre, blah, 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 pulling from other influences, one of the early pioneers, we can have that whole thing. But for me, a lot doomier than black metal-ier, but that might be annoying scene arguments.
Black metalier. Lisa, bring us back to the chat if you can. We want to hear what people have to say. Here we go. Agalloch. Nathan Slabak. The Mantle remains to this day an all-out masterpiece of ABM, introducing elements of folk and post-metal to create a previously unclassified musical element. For this reason, Agalloch should be the legend. Caleb Begley says, I have to say, I've never heard a lot of Burzum, maybe because Varg is such a church-burning, racist, murderous jerk. But The Mantle has always been one of my favorite albums. The atmosphere and the dynamics work together to create something truly beautiful. Nicole Hazel, Agalloch isn't black metal enough for the list. They're barely black metal at all, fighting words. And Hannah Kay says that Agalloch must be on the board, especially older records like Pale Folklore are clearly black metal. So some debate, but most people seem to be saying that they deserve to be on the board. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lisa, everyone's agreeing for the most part? Check in. What do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 4 more spots to fill.
We're going to get some newer bands on here, and I'm not convinced about Ulver, honestly.
Yep.
So I've made a poll on our
Okay.
YouTube page, and I put the URL in the chat right now. So go there and tell us if you think yes or no to Ulver in the top 10 bands of atmospheric black metal.
Technology. Well done. Okay. Are we moving on to another band? Or, Lisa, what are people saying? Anybody else out there?
Oh, there's a lot. You know what? There have been no comments on this band.
Okay.
But there's a band that Blayne wanted as the legend.
Oh.
And we shut him down because the poll said Burzum. And so I'm going to give him a few minutes to tell us why you should maybe include Blut Osnor.
Go ahead. Here, get on your pedestal. Go.
All right. So this is a band that really is surprising me that more people are mentioning. You know, similar to Ulver, there is the streak of experimenting and doing some dark ambient stuff with keyboards, but the Memory of Vetusta series, which has been around since the band pretty much started, like the first one came out in like 94, 96, like around the time this was all happening, they put out a perfect example of atmospheric black metal, and then did it 2 more times afterwards over the course of a couple years while experimenting in between. Blut Osnor might not be 100% all the time putting out, but when he chooses to put out a atmospheric black metal record, that is exactly what he puts out, and everyone can sit down and take notes off that album. So that's what I would say.
He wills it, and he shall doeth. There you go. We want to hear what you have to think about what this guy thinks about Blut Osnor. Lisa, I see there's some other comments forming on the board.
I don't think you can give it a spot. So there's just not enough. You can put it on the side. We'll see what happens in the next few minutes.
Just got cowbelled, buddy.
But
How does it feel?
There is a band that the chat definitely wants to include.
That band I can't pronounce, but I try every time. I'm going to just keep trying. Drutk. Here we go.
Now, this is a band you should listen to.
Okay.
Why? It's an atmospheric black metal band, and the thing that stands out to me most about it is there's really great bass work. And this is a band that's going to stick a little bit more closely to the black metal formula compared to a lot of the others.
Right.
A little less variation, but still has that super washed out sound. And very atmospheric feel to it. You can put it on, you can relax, and great bass work.
All right,
Great
I
bass
got to
work.
check it out. Let's see what people have to say about the band whose name I cannot pronounce. Leonard Riebstein says, I'm picking Drutk for legend. These Ukrainians infused nature worship with a sense of melancholy through fuzz and melody in a much more profound way. Also, they have continued to produce albums of high quality, while Varg has dedicated his energies towards acting like a tinfoil hat-wearing clown on YouTube. You should do that. Producing albums of diminishing originality and strength, well articulated. Anderson Smith, Drutk, for popularizing the whole Ukrainian scene. That's pretty awesome. Don't know a lot of metal bands out of the Ukraine. Leonard Riebstein is back again, just below. Essential, alternately beautiful and cruel. This band gives a sense of deep forests and cold, still air. The guitar is a constant buzz, resulting in a hypnotic, immersive experience. And lastly, Adirmikan says Drutk is easily within the genre and definitely top tier. Some love for this band.
Yeah,
I gotta check these guys out.
Honestly, like I said, you know, sticks closer to the black metal sound, and mostly just kind of cranks out solid albums without getting too weird.
Can I have my academic exercise for a moment?
Yeah.
What I find fascinating about all this and a lot of metal recently is the embracing of nature.
Yes.
When did that start? We got to think about that. There's something interesting. Metal was always like commenting on nature, was about environmental destruction, and those sorts of themes were in early extreme metal. But this turn, so much metal these days is about nature. I want to know kind of where that came from. Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, this is kind of a lot of the birthplace of it, right? I mean, Europe is where once we really started to acknowledge that Europe is kind of better than the rest of us at making metal a little bit, we started kind of letting the Europeans dictate the themes, and suddenly there was you know, a lot of these guys that are making this music live in the middle of goddamn nowhere.
Yeah, it probably started actually thinking out loud with the Norwegian black metal scene. I mean, that where actually that different approach to using nature imagery and talking about nature in a different way, like early Enslaved and those sorts of bands.
And you get the Tolkien influence, and you know, there's a lot of nature going on.
Because it strikes me now, there's so much of it.
Yes.
It's really become a thing. Nature metal, coming to a future episode of Lock Horns. Lisa, I'm off on a rant.
Not the first time.
You're gonna stop me? Last.
I am going to stop you.
Okay.
Vessel.
Vessel Brookius. Sam, I've written an essay for this about my history studies. Maybe I can send you a translated abstract. Yes, please. Send it to me. I got something to learn. Lisa, we want to go to these other comments here.
What we're going to do is I'm going to check the poll about Ulver, and we're going to play a clip now of some of the newer atmospheric black metal bands under consideration. We do want to include bands from like the last 10 years. So we did a poll on our YouTube channel. And here's a few of the groups that came up, and think about which newer bands that you want on the chart.
Yeah, so there's a collection of more modern ABM bands, or possibly ABM bands to consider. We've got 3 spots to fill on the board. We ended there with Mjolnir, and as you know, we've talked about on this show, and I did a review of the recent record. A lot of chat about this band. It being a style of metal that I don't necessarily listen to a lot, I really thought it was an impressive record because it was like Sigur Rós meets Dark Throne, and I really dug the sound and amazing vocals and instrumentation. Do they belong here, in your opinion?
This is the thing where I'm going to say it's going to kind of call back to earlier, and I'm going to say I don't think so. I think she's doing a great job of bringing some metal ideas into folk music, like not folk metal, folk. She's coming over to metal, she's taking some good ideas, and she's making great music with it. And I have no issues with that. I'm not getting all frustrated about someone taking our stuff. But I do think it is an outside band using metal more than a metal band
rather than the other way around, which is really what we're talking about here. Yeah. Fundamentally, metal bands at their core bringing in other styles as opposed to the other way around. Yeah, fair argument. I'd like to hear what people have to say about that. Do we have any comments about Mjolnir coming in, Lisa?
You betcha.
Okay, Progmaster666. I like Mjolnir, but to me it sounds like really dark folk music. Just because she's inspired by metal artists doesn't mean she's metal herself. Fair enough. She probably doesn't care whether she's metal or not. In fact, I know that by reading interviews. Mick Biter 15, Mjolnir is original by adding folk music styles from Scandinavia and Baltic states and makes it all metal. She does it right. Donnie M. Mjolnir is poser, hipster, black metal. Got a few agreeers out there, I'm sure. Edwin Matson says Mjolnir should, without a doubt, be on the list. Link the Tyrant says Mjolnir is just an Ulver ripoff. Marco Sanchez, no Mjolnir on the basis that it is not influential. There's a good point. I mean, we're kind of at contradiction here where we're trying to add modern bands to a list of bands that are really supposed to be the most influential. Good point. Noah Benson says Mjolnir may not be influential in the sense that she is rather new, but her relevance is much bigger than most other bands, perhaps making her even more relevant than other bands on the show. Certainly created a lot of noise, I suppose. Anyway.
Should we write her on the side?
Everyone's got an opinion about Mjolnir. That's one thing we know for sure. Let's get it on the side. Have I spelt that right?
I don't know, put it
Who
upside
knows?
down.
Sorry. Okay, Lisa, time is running out.
I know, and we have just some random things people are firing at me. I've seen a lot of people asking for these bands, not so many comments, but we'll put a few comments here and see how the chat responds to A Weakling and Caledon Brood.
Okay, firstly, Ethan Gardner says Weakling started in '88 and released one seminal album that paved the path for many, many bands. Do you know this band?
Yes, one album. Another one of my kind of favorite things. Band that puts out a really great album and then is like, haha, see you later. So yeah, Weakling is a good addition that I really like. The other one I'm going to very much disagree with.
Fair enough. That is coming from Zero Total Chaos, says that Caledon Brood took summoning's epic atmospheres to new heights. They belong on the list. No?
Again, now this is, we're grouping them with Weakling, but Caledon Brood put out one album.
Yeah.
And I would debate how influential it was, and I would also debate how much they took Summoning album and did anything different with it than any other band
Those are
had
fighting
really
words
done.
for Blayne Smith.
I don't think they did anything influential in the genre,
Yep.
and I don't think they had enough of an impact. Enough
Okay.
people care.
One more comment on Caledon Brood here. Mystic Mind Analysis says Caledon Brood need to be on the list. Yes, they only have one album, but damn, does it ever define atmospheric black metal. So just to check in, Caledon Brood, no. Weakling, does Weakling belong?
Weakling, I would say yes.
Okay,
kind of
we're
has
adding
that,
Weakling to
has
the
that
list.
allure of a Caledon Brood. I felt was a little more a derivative.
Fair enough. There we go. Weakling. We've now got 8 on the board. 2 more spots.
Yep.
Time is running out. If you want to see your band up here, let us know. Fucking Wasted says, LOL, Weakling is indie riffs using black metal tropes. To some, that's an insult. To others, that's not.
Who cares?
We move on. Andrew Hudkins, The Ruins of Everest
Yes.
is quintessential to ABM. The first 2 albums are incredibly atmospheric and dense. The segue tracks are super ambient, while the tracks themselves are very murky and dark. The Ruins of Everest.
Yes, this is, I'm glad someone mentioned this because this is an exciting band to talk about with this, because we have put up a bunch of bands that have a very similar vibe. Ruins of Everest are a little different in the vibe. I mean, these are all very much, you feel like you're listening to them in the forest. Ruins of Everest, you're still listening, but you're in like a cave. It's more like a cave. There's something more kind of sinister, and you're underground. You feel a little less safe. There's a bit more of aggression in it. It still maintains the kind of ignorable quality while still being enthralling that the others have, but really different kind of emotion behind it, I would say.
Cool. Let's add them. Ruins of Everest.
No, we got a magnet.
Oh,
Boom.
Back it up.
hello, magnets.
Oh, no.
Are better than my scrawl. There we go. The Ruins of Everest
There we
are
go.
on the wall of atmospheric black metal. We've got 1 spot left, and we've got about 5 minutes left. So let's make use of our time. Lisa,
I'm
any
checking
running
in-
favorites out there?
I'm checking in on the Ulver poll.
Yes.
Do they belong? 68% said yes.
Okay.
There you
To 32% no.
They remain.
So far, they're staying on there.
Should we do another poll about, what was the other one? The Caledon Brood? Does that make sense to do that? They've come up on the board.
All right, what do you guys want? Do you guys want Weakling? Do you want... Who is the one new band that you want on here?
That's right. We've
Fortress.
got Weakling is on there. Blayne Smith says Fortress. You guys got to let us know what you
Quebec.
think. Otherwise, we're going to fill some dead air here. We got Limbonic Art, we've got Taka, we've got Dark Space, Alcest, Blutos Nord, Death, what? They just get in every show. Abigor, Oathbreaker, they're flying by at a million. We don't want his names. Yes to Caledon Brood.
We can stick my shirt on the board.
Enslave, definitely not. Alcest again.
Oh, 2 Fortress.
2 4.
I'm
seeing a lot of Alcest.
Alcest, no. What are you
All right,
doing?
I'm going to make the poll for Caledon.
Caledon Brood.
While you're going to read some of these comments that maybe the summoning doesn't belong.
Okay, we're going back to summoning because people just like to talk about summoning. Gus Grimes says summoning are pedestrian. Oh, got to be the worst insult in metal at best. Eric Sundstrom, summoning is poorly made and lazily performed fantasy music. Play Mortis instead. Blaine, come on.
I mean, look, you can be right or you can be wrong, but that doesn't really point to that it shouldn't be up here, right? Lazy bands influence people all the goddamn time. You know what I mean? Like, you need to give me a reason that is better than just being like, I think they suck.
Although you may think otherwise, Blaine is not summoning's agent. I just want to be clear about that.
I mean, look, if you don't like them, that's cool, man. But saying like they're pedestrian is like, well, a lot of the times the bands that influence everybody, the biggest bands are the ones that are, you don't have to decipher and read 3 books to get into.
It also seems like maybe it's the subgenre of metal where being pedestrian might actually be a positive attribute.
I mean, there is something to be said with being able to restrain yourself in this genre.
Right, minimalism.
You know,
creating space.
Yeah, right? I mean, at some point when you want to create atmosphere, you can overdo. If you walk into a house and there's shit everywhere, they've created an atmosphere. It's no good. It's a bad atmosphere.
You heard it here first. There's such thing as too much atmosphere.
Yeah.
You might have trouble breathing, I suppose. Lisa?
All right. Last thing.
We're just riffing here.
I know.
It's not really going anywhere productive.
It's kind of like a lot of those songs. It just goes on and on and on until people fall asleep.
It's like a prog episode.
So we have a poll going on Caledon Brood right now. Blaine, do you want to talk about the band on your shirt before we go? Because no one's mentioned them yet.
What is that band on your shirt, Blayne Smith?
Winter with a bunch of L's and Y's and TH's. It's
Welsh.
Yeah. So we've got a band that I obviously wore the shirt for a reason. They are kind of like Burzum. I mean, they're a little dodgy sometimes. They really like Britain, maybe a little too much. But again, you pick up an album. You've got a nice picture of just a mountainside with some trees on it. You put it on, it's got that great washed over sound. The lyrical themes are all about, just history, heritage, nature. And again, it really is a great band to put on and relax, which I think is one of the hallmarks of this genre, is that it can be a meditative thing, even when it's blast beats and behind it. That doesn't mean you're not kind of taking a second to be a little introspective and decompress from your day with a great record.
So much to be found in metal, and unlike summoning, Blayne Smith is Winterfill's agent. So no, I'm just joking. Here we go, Lisa. Back to the board. Roadiecore. How can you not have noticed all these Winterfilleth cries? They are the most important atmospheric BM band to come out of the UK ever. And Mystic Mind Analysis says Winterfilleth. Absolutely atmospheric, but with more harshness. And Alex Galvin Jr. says Winterfilleth, yeah, horns up. So yeah, you got some love out there. Does that mean Winterfilleth fills the board and seals the final spot?
You can write them on the side there.
Or is it Caledon Brood?
I don't think so. Let me just refresh the poll, guys. Caledon Brood. That was a 70% no.
Ouch.
Sorry.
Blaine's happy. Well, Winterfilleth is on the side. Probably didn't spell it right, but it's there anyway.
Close.
It's an approximation. I like the Y. Something about it felt more metal. Winterfilleth. Winterfilleth. No? Yes?
Maybe they're the last minute sneaking in.
Eldamar, Limbonic Art. It's down to the wire now. The clock is ticking.
A lot of
Fortress,
you guys are shouting a lot about bands that don't fit the genre.
Eldamar, maybe it's the same guy every time. It is Wade the Mercer.
Wade,
got you.
give it up.
Got you, buddy. Iron Maiden, obviously.
All right, when people start putting in Maiden in all caps, I believe that's
We've
time
had
for...
Iron Maiden and Death, so the chat is officially closed.
Yeah.
And you know, because the shirt's cool, you gave a good description. There's a bit of love out there.
Stop saying Leviathan. It's suicidal depressive black metal, which is a different thing, and I'm sure I can come back and do that episode.
Yeah, it's Winterfelleth, and I'm not going to write it again over here. I'm just going to draw a little arrow because I'm lazy. But there you go. You happy, Lisa?
Zather also.
So happy.
It's not about being happy with an ABM episode, but we got Burzum, Panopticon, Summoning, Wolves in the Throne Room, Ulver, Agalloch, Druk from Ukraine, Weakling, and the Ruins of Everest with Winterfelleth as a late entry. There we go.
And Mirker, yes or no?
No.
You
Mirker,
counting
no.
them? No. Okay.
Blut aus Nord, no. Sorry, Blaine, you may not be able to sleep tonight, but maybe you will if you listen to some ABM, apparently. Something for everyone. Okay, Lisa, that's it?
That's it. We have a new branch to the tree. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Thanks, everyone. I want to thank, of course, Blaine. Come again. Lisa, Daniel, Craig, and Andrew, and Dylan. Next debate. It's a big one. It's Judas Priest week. Coming next month, we're going to be debating the essential Judas Priest albums. We're spending a whole week at BangerTV discussing all things JP. We're going to celebrate the new record Firepower with guest Martin Popoff. That's coming soon. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Lock Horns. Bye for now.
Check out Fortress, Fen, Oda, and Sojourner.
What he said.